Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Two Guys Talking Sports. It's our college edition, and we have got to basically unload our feelings for a little bit.
Hold on. They don't deserve to be shown on this TV.
Normally, we cover both South Carolina and Clemson, but obviously, we're recording this on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And Clemson will play tomorrow night. So we get to just spend our time telling you how bad the South Carolina Gamecocks were.
So buckle up, everybody,
Yeah.
because we stink.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. There was nothing good about this game to me. Rattler looked good.
We had bright spots,
Right.
but we couldn't build off those
Yeah.
bright spots.
Yeah, couldn't run the ball. Offensive line is atrocious.
So I've got a stat for you. Okay, so going into this game, everybody knew North Carolina's defense was, put the clip up, terrible, poop. Last year, North Carolina allowed 17 sacks.
Yeah.
Or excuse me,
They
they
got-
had 17 sacks
Right.
all season.
Yeah.
They got almost over
They got
50%
yeah.
of that last night.
Yep, 9 sacks.
And I don't know if that is a result of them maybe improving in the offseason.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Or-
I think that they definitely knew that their defense was an issue. They knew that they had a Heisman candidate quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The offense is going to be good. And I think that North Carolina knew that they had to
You can change
improve.
that.
Yeah, they had to improve their defense. And I think some of it was they improved, and some of it was we just did. I don't know, the
All right.
offensive line. And I kind of knew this was how it was going to go going into the week.
The big three, and I'm sorry to cut you off, the key areas we were most concerned about this season showed last
up.
night.
Yeah, and that's I kind of knew coming into this week. Like Beamer did his press conference on Wednesday, and he comes out and the first thing he said was, "I'm just going to be honest with you guys, we ain't practiced good."
Yeah.
All right. Well, I knew right then.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be good for us.
And
then they released the depth chart, and it's like, two
Or-
offensive line positions are either this guy or this guy. Like,
Yeah, there's
you
a
don't
lot of
know who your
positions
starting
that-
linemen are
yeah.
the week of the game.
And that's the position group that needs to have continuity.
Right,
Where it's
yeah.
got and we lost 3 offensive
Right.
linemen from last year, and they weren't the best. Let's be real
Right.
here. But
they
picked
played
it up.
together.
Yeah. And it didn't start out great. Your
Yeah.
best defensive player, who was only a sophomore, Nick Emanwari,
yeah.
gets hurt literally the first play of the game. He goes out, tries to come back in, hamstring just couldn't go.
Right.
Secondary,
I think the secondary is better than what they showed. Again, if you cannot keep your offense on the field long
Yeah.
enough to do something, your
Yeah.
defense gets so gassed that, and it's not like, with offense, you can run out different receivers, different running backs, stuff like that
Yeah.
as a drive goes. 9 times out of 10, when that defense gets on the field, besides a few linemen, defensive linemen, those defensive backs, they're out there. That's it.
and another thing I see myself looking past sometimes. I need to realize North Carolina has a great offense.
Yeah, very
the only
good.
thing that prevented them from being any kind of sick, they did make the AC championship last
Right.
year, but the thing that held them back the most last year was their defense.
Exactly.
Their offense is very,
Yeah,
very,
I mean, they
very,
have a
very
legit
talented.
Heisman candidate quarterback.
But I just
and
had
we
a-
made him look better.
And I always had it they were without their 2 top receivers.
Yep.
Due to ineligibility.
Yep.
And injury. They have a new offensive coordinator. So I thought, okay, maybe that's starting to shift
Yeah.
in our direction. And
The other thing is, just like
Didn't
our
work at
offensive
all.
line, the defensive line is getting no pressure.
No.
So then, really, if you got a quarterback that can sit back there for 3, 4, 5 seconds, it makes it so much more difficult
Yeah.
on those DBs. So that's why they didn't play great,
No.
but I don't want to put a lot of it on the DBs because that's a position where if somebody else doesn't do their job,
Yeah.
it makes sure it's exponentially harder to do.
I mean, we had 2 interceptions last night. We had a couple. The issue is the big busted coverages that we had
Right.
were big mistakes.
Right.
I know there was one play where we had gotten pressure on Drake May,
Right.
but he's very, some people may not realize he's pretty agile back there,
Right.
and he was just going around maneuvering back there. And DBs can, the DBs and the linebackers that are guarding the receivers or tight ends
Yeah.
can only hold them for so long.
Right.
When they're just constantly running around, and it was a 3rd and long, like a 3rd and 12 conversion that they got for a first down, and that kills any type of momentum you have going in, on defense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just
And
it was one thing after another.
It was more frustrating on the offensive side.
For sure.
Like I said, we knew going in the run game was going to be an issue. Offensive line was going to be an issue. I was not a big fan of the trick play on the first. I love that Beamer will approach things differently and will sometimes think outside the box. Right. But when you've got a lot of question marks on offense, you've got a new offensive coordinator, you want to, and like the whole preseason, they're talking about we need to get Spencer in a rhythm, and your first play call is a trick play.
Right, yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. But
I would have rather them say, all right, let's just run 4 verticals on the first play, and we're just going to heave one.
Throw it deep. Throw it deep.
Let's just do that. Like if that's what you want to do. Yeah. If that's what you want to do, to start the game off is have like a big, opening play. Yeah. Sure, go deep. But the trick play is like, all right, well now we just put ourselves behind.
Yeah,
and we're already weak in positions like offensive line, where that offensive line, you don't really think about it. They need rhythm too. They need to get to where they feel comfortable, pushing somebody around, getting 2 or 3 yards on a run, being able to stop them from getting sacks. And when you're doing all these things and you're all over the place and you can't get anything going, nobody's in a rhythm.
And I'm sure it took a second or a couple, and it was clearly obvious. Like, it took that drive to kind of, I think, get Logans comfortable.
Right.
He's been an offensive coordinator, but he's never been an offensive coordinator at the collegiate level.
Right.
And so, but we just shot ourselves in the foot on offense.
Yeah, for sure.
We would have some big plays, and then we would have some penalties or offsides, holding, and it would just kill any type of momentum
or
we
you
had.
Get going, and then you get a sack, and it's just like... The sacks are the bad part, because here's the thing.
They were very obvious in the second half.
Rattler got so much flack last year for his play, and then he turned it on at the end of the year. And then we've heard about he's still looking like the guy he was at the end of the year here in the offseason. And the thing is he still looked like that guy last night. He threw for 350 yards. He didn't throw any interceptions.
He was 30 of 39, 353 yards. Key thing is 9 sacks for 65 yards.
Yeah, he got sacked 9 times. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you can just 350 yards, 30 of 39, like that's a great game.
We had
no interceptions, unfortunately, no touchdowns, but 9 sacks.
We had -2 rushing yards last night. I don't care.
First of all, we didn't run. We can't run the ball.
I mean, I agree. We cannot run the ball, but like Dakereon Joyner had 12 rush attempts for 23 yards.
Right.
Xavier Leggett, Mullins product. Area team we covered. Great game. You couldn't ask more from. Right. That's the type of game we needed, and not even specifically to Xavier Leggett, but somebody outside of Juice Wells. Yeah. Like Trey Knox, only 2 receptions. Luke Doty, 3 catches for 41 yards.
Exactly. And here's the thing: is I think Luke Doty's going to end up being a game. He's a gamer. Yeah. He's going to be like that Wes Welker type, that Julian Edelman type. He's not going to go up and get the deep ball. He's not going to go and like jump over somebody.
Yeah.
But you get him on that little slant, and he catches the ball, and he can go for and make a big play out of that. But we got to definitely have, like you said, it's got to be somebody outside of Juice, because one, Juice didn't even play, or didn't play much.
He was more of like a decoy,
right,
for like 2 plays, for like 2 drives.
And then you don't have your all-world 5-star player that came in, with Nicholas Harbor. I think
injured.
He played 1 play. We knew that he had an injury
blocking.
Coming in.
It was a lot of soft tissue stuff,
right? And they could just be wanting to take it easy on those guys. You would much rather have them for the long haul than to throw them out there injured in game 1 and just extend that injury.
But I mean, next week's no slouch. I mean, I know it's Furman, but like they're no slouch.
Well, for one, we got to find some continuity. You got to say these are our 5 linemen.
Yeah.
That's who we're rolling with.
We had a lineman go down.
Or this.
Yeah, we had a lineman go down. And it was one of the earlier drives where we were moving the ball, and his knee got twisted up or something. It's I think the point in the game where I realized, like, okay, we're probably in trouble is the start of the second half.
Yeah.
Coach Beamer had some choice words for the chain gang. He's
right.
like, they were more concerned with eating their hot dogs than getting ready for the second half, because they had to wait.
Yeah.
The teams were on the field ready to go, but the chain gang wasn't out there. We get the onside kick, then we go 4 and out. We go for it on 4th down.
And I like the gutsy call.
Yeah.
We're special teams wise, that's point, always been a good thing for South Carolina since Beamer's been there, special teams, and that's what, the Beamers are known for.
Yeah. And at that point in the game, you have to do something because your defense is probably not going to stop them.
Right.
They're coming out, they take the lead. We don't score in our last drive before the end of the half. You got to try to get some momentum on our side. Yeah. And that was it. That was the play that was the drive that could have changed the game.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was a costly drop by Amarian Brown.
It's just there was so many things that went wrong. It just wasn't even pleasurable to watch.
No pressure. And back to our offensive line, North Carolina was mostly rushing 3 players.
Yeah, that's the other other
it's
thing.
It's not like they were bringing 7.
Sometimes if you're being rushed, it's one thing to stand in the pocket and still be able to deliver the ball. But when it's only 3 guys rushing, that's leaving 8 in coverage.
Yeah.
If they're dropping linebackers and they're have their defensive backs and they're only rushing 3. First of all, if you're getting pressure with 3 and you got to try and throw the ball against 8 guys, it's just not going to happen.
We had 0 sacks.
Yeah,
none.
The offensive line and defensive line are just huge question marks, and we knew that coming in, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
And like we said in our high school show, I wish some of these offensive line commits for next year would just show up.
Yeah, just come on now.
We need it, man. And I think that's another thing. Like, let's be real. Like, for majority of the season last season, this is how we looked.
Right.
Those 3 games it raised our expectations because we know what this team is capable of. But we also, we lost a lot, and it's easy to overreact after that game because we're better than what we played at. But that seems to be the thing that keeps being said or happening under Beamer. Like, we never start out the season great, and the season doesn't get any easier for us.
No.
We still have Georgia and Tennessee to play this month, and they're both away.
Yeah, those are losses. Unless something changes.
I mean, Furman's going to be a loss.
It's kind of tough because, North Carolina was 20 or 21 in the rankings, but they could, these preseason rankings, you never know. A team that's ranked 20th could actually be a top 5 team.
Like, outside the top 10, I really don't take preseason rankings too seriously because a lot of the times it's just about the team.
Right, exactly.
Like, I don't understand how Oklahoma won big this weekend, but they stunk last year, and they were preseason ranked 20th.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because, like I said, North Carolina, they did play an ACC championship game. We knew their defense was the
big question mark.
But obviously, they've gotten better. I think they've improved. We made them look like they made a bigger improvement than maybe they probably really have.
Yeah. And Beamer tried to address the offensive line issue in the offseason with the portal.
Right.
But they didn't come to us.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, if you're a good enough coordinator, you can scheme up the plays that fit what your team can do, and that starts with what can my linemen do. Yeah, if they can't do certain things, don't call those plays.
But it's also the line has to do their part in blocking. Like if you can't run plays that are to help them if they're just not even giving us time to throw the ball.
Yeah, they definitely got to make some improvements this week. And again, I think that's by saying these are our 5 guys. This is how we're going to scheme it up to make certain plays work. Let's just don't open up the whole playbook. Let's just say, all right, let's focus on these plays or these schemes and build off of that. But like you said, we came out the gate on a trick play. I mean, that's not establishing anything, any kind of.
I just don't get it because there was another drive where it was a trick play. It was they put Rattler out at the receiver.
Yeah.
Brought Leggett in, direct snap to DK. And we lost 5 yards.
Yeah.
So you're already behind before you're even going on your offense drive, and it just sets up your drive for failure majority of the time.
Yeah.
And it's like we couldn't get any rhythm going because it was either trick plays that maybe just didn't work, penalties, blocking.
Trick plays, man, it's either admitting, all right, we can't do what we want to do with normal plays, or it's either I'm beating you so bad, and we're going to throw some trick plays at you. That's the way that I see trick plays. Like, they hardly ever just, come when, in a game like that where it's like, all right, we can move the ball, and then we do a trick play. It's just like, all right, I'm admitting to you right now. It's like I'm trying to do anything.
It's like the bowl game against North Carolina.
Right.
I feel like we had to do the trick plays to kind of...
And it worked then. Yeah. But it was just a lot of trick plays.
Yeah.
Like when you come in and you run one trick play right here, they just key in on something,
And another thing is they knew we didn't have a run game.
Right.
And
that's not a knock on Dakereon, even though
but he's not a true running back.
He's
not
a
traditional running back.
It's tough to say, okay, you've played quarterback your whole life, now go be a running back. And not only that, go be a running back in the SEC.
And I think, honestly, he could have had a better game if we just blocked for him.
Here's the thing. He's dynamic. He definitely put on a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. You know, he looks more like a running back. He really does. But if nobody's blocking for him, none of that matters.
You back there. You can put George Rogers back there and it's fine. I mean, you know, and I know it's... I don't know. I just don't know what to say. Like, it's a very big overreaction, I feel. We still have 11 games. But, like I said, our schedule doesn't get any easier. So it's like, you know, this game was always going to be a toss-up about who was going to win. I was away on a bachelor party this weekend, and one of the guys, they're all from Virginia, and wanted to bet. I was like, I don't know, man. This line I don't like. I knew this coming I was like, if anything, bet the over. The over didn't even hit.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Sorry, Paul.
I knew this is how the game was going to go when, like I said earlier, when Beamer came out on that Wednesday and said, we ain't practiced good. All right, well, we ain't going to win then.
Yeah.
Like, if your coach is coming out, the practice must have been so bad that he was so frustrated that he got in front of a mic and said, we didn't, I'm just going to be honest, we're not practicing good. All right, well, we're toast right here.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not practicing good, you're definitely not going to come out and play good.
No, and it's kind of what Spurrier used to do in the preseasons. Like, you know, our receivers couldn't catch cold in a snowstorm. Our quarterback couldn't even hit this you know, our indoor practice facility.
Which I guess his comments kind of spurred them to have a little bit better practice the next day. But, man, if you got to Wednesday and you're having bad practice, I mean, you're pretty much wrapping it up on a Thursday anyways.
Yeah, but this game's not on Rattler. Rattler did not make many bad decisions, which is what plagued them last season.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, we kind of had the same issues starting out the gate last year, and I think he was just trying to do too much. But, I mean, man, He didn't make many bad decisions.
Yeah, he looked like the Rattler that was playing at the end of the year.
What we expected of him when he came here.
Without the touchdowns, obviously. But like you said, he didn't make any bad decisions.
Yeah.
He didn't force it. He didn't force the ball whenever he was just trying to make something happen. He took what the game gave him, 30 or 39. 350 passing yards.
Yeah.
The big thing is like no interceptions. And you did all that while being put on the ground 9 times.
Yeah.
And that's just when they got him on the ground. That ain't when he did get rid of the ball or got out of the pocket.
There was one play, and this goes to targeting. That targeting replay they did on our, I think it was Fortune. I can't remember who the DB was for us. But it was on the first drive, I think, for North Carolina. And the running back lowered his head. And there's nothing our guy can do. Yeah. I'm glad they made the right call that it was not targeting, because it's not like you have to be able to protect.
At some point, you got to start calling targeting on the offensive players as well. Like if they're lowering their head to come at you,
and there wasn't even a targeting penalty.
Right? It's
But the next drive when we scored, I think it was the next drive when we scored, the North Carolina D lineman, from what it looked like to me, went helmet to helmet with Spencer.
Yeah.
But there was no review. I didn't even know that was reviewable without a penalty being called.
Yeah. It's all over the place.
And how about the commercials, man? My God. I feel like there was 1,000 commercials in that game last night. Jeez, Spectrum already took the channels away.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about Spectrum, but let's wrap up the Gamecocks. Overall, it was very disappointing.
Yeah.
For one, is because of how we finished last year. Yeah, we lost the bowl game, but it was still a good game. Yeah. We played well. Mm-hmm. We knew that we were missing players, that opted out. But it was still like, all right, you beat Tennessee, you beat Clemson, you played extremely well in your bowl game.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, we're back to square one again.
The season's not over, but
definitely not. But it's just like, all right, we had momentum, and then we had the recruiting this past year. Everybody was all excited about the recruits that we're getting, and then it's like, all right, well, we look like game 1 of last year.
Yeah, and another thing, I think it just is like me realizing that how lack of depth we have when Beamer took over. And it takes, at least 3 to 4 recruiting cycles to get,
for sure,
not your guys in, but it's like, with the day and age of like the transfer portal and everything, majority of the time you're going to lose players from your recruiting classes.
Yeah.
And it's like getting players in. So, it doesn't excuse anything, but it's like, I think next year or hopefully the next season, like we have that good quality of depth where it's like, if somebody goes down and, Jalen Kilgore did very good, replacing Emin Wari.
Yeah.
It's kind of how Eamon Warrior started last year.
Right. Yep, just kind of came in.
The guy got hurt. He came in and never came off the field.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Jalen Kilgore, but I mean, he played pretty good for what he was put into.
Yeah. Again, it's still definitely a rebuild.
It's the same thing. It's the same conversation we have every year.
Yeah.
After Carolina football, because it's the same issues. It's not like it's something new every week.
And unfortunately, you do. They put you in these high profile games to start the season off. When you probably could have benefited from
everybody's playing Mercer or Tennessee State or Portland State.
You'd probably see a completely different game, honestly, if we flip these games between Furman and North Carolina. If you played Furman week 1, and again, no slouch against Furman, they're a good team for where they are at.
They're ranked,
but if you flip those and you kind of have like that starter game where you can work on some of these kinks and then go into the North Carolina game, I think you see a completely different game. But you throw them, And
North Carolina's not a bad team. They're a really, really good team.
They have an extremely good offense. And if their defense has improved like what they showed, again, we obviously assisted in that showing. But I think they've definitely improved. You get 17 sacks last year, and even though our offensive line isn't the best, 9 sacks, that's an improvement. Like, you obviously made an improvement.
Like North Carolina, this was North Carolina stats from last season on defense. They surrendered almost 31 points a game and allowed 436.5 yards per game. We didn't even get close to that. No. But again, I don't know if that's just a mixture of maybe they did improve in the offseason.
They definitely made an improvement.
And, they just forced us to pass the ball the whole time because they knew we're not going to be able to run. And then, again, you hate to keep going back to the offensive line, but
that's where it starts. That's where it starts. If you can't block, then you can't run or pass.
If you can't get pressure on the quarterback, they're just going to pick you apart. I mean, he did. He nickel and dimed us the entire game. And he made it look easy.
Yeah.
There weren't many, outside the interceptions, he didn't make many, he didn't, have any issues.
Yeah, I think going into Furman this week, we definitely need to work on a lot. I think hopefully we just see some improvement.
Hopefully Juice Wells is 100% healthy.
That's the other thing. Let's get our athletes in here because even though you may not have as much time, if you only got one guy to go to in Leggett versus, having Juice, having Harbor, having, Brown, all these players where, all right, we know we can't block long enough to run the deeper routes. Let's nickel and dime them.
Yeah.
So, that's going to open up the big passes.
And also when you get down, you can't do these nickel and dimes or like little short routes across the middle or whatnot. You have to go downfield. And we still did a great job, but then once we, again, like we said earlier, got the momentum, then there's 2 sacks allowed.
Exactly.
And it's like then you've just lost all momentum that you've had with that drive.
Right. So, well, hopefully they improve this week. Normally this is when we would get into Clemson, but they ain't played.
I'm still pessimistic about this season. We suck.
Yeah.
I'm done.
A bowl game would be great.
We're 5-7 or 6-16.
Anything over that?
We overachieved last year. There's games we won last season we had no business winning.
And there will be a game this year that we win that we have no business winning. Kentucky. It might not be like that Tennessee or Clemson.
No, we deserve to win those. Like I'm talking like the Kentucky and A&M games. Like we benefited off like fluke plays in the A&M game. Kind of the same thing with Kentucky. Not really a fluke game, but because then our offense didn't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of the offense from last year, Marcus Satterfield. Whew.
Yeah, rough game for him.
I was seeing some message boards post. South Carolina wins this week against Furman before we get into Satterfield.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully it's a wide margin because we need some confidence before we get
because
even tougher
just,
games.
They put out all these hype videos, which I love. But it's like you've got to be able to put the product on the field to get people, because with the NIL era, like people are pouring their hard-earned money to get these athletes to the school, and then you put that product out there last night, and it's like it's hard to stay motivated sometimes. Again, I know we're overreacting. It's week 1, but like that sucked to see last night. I was hoping for more.
Yeah, it's but again, it really didn't bother me because whenever he said that thing about practice, I knew I had zero expectations. So. Yeah. I just went on to bed. Actually, I just watched Netflix afterwards.
Yeah. Speaking of Netflix,
because you can't watch anything else on Spectrum.
Just imagine if South Carolina and North Carolina were playing Thursday night.
Yeah, and it cuts off.
And they do that, like, because I know it was a couple years ago, like they were having the same issues, but it's like they gave you like a month's notice that like, hey, this ends on this date. We're trying to negotiate, but if we're not successful, you're not going to get the channel.
Yeah, and here's the thing: a lot of people are upset with Disney, and Disney's done, different things that you can be upset at them about. But
don't take
that move right there. Honestly, that's a good business move on Disney to say, okay, we're going to wait until first college game. Yeah, we're cutting it off. Pay us what we want, or all your customers are now pissed off at you.
Spectrum is losing money.
Yeah.
Like I would have broken my TV if that would happen, and that was the South Carolina game.
Right. Yeah.
Because it leaves people scrambling to if you don't have a provider service that has the game available, what are you going to do?
Yeah, because even if you have ESPN Plus, if you even pay for the bundle or whatever, if it's on a local,
if it's through your cable provider,
you can't watch it even with ESPN Plus.
So basically, what happened is these cable providers negotiate contracts and deals with each channel, whether it's like a TLC or
so DirecTV had this with CBS a few years ago.
Yeah,
where you couldn't watch the NFL games and stuff on CBS because they were in negotiations.
Yeah, and so basically, I guess the deal between Disney and ESPN, which they're the same company, ended. And they took it off the airways. There was no. Now I don't know if the deal expired because, like I said, last time it happened, you had some notice.
Yeah, they normally work on these deals in good faith, where they say, all right, the contract's ended, but you can continue to play our stuff as we negotiate these deals. But if Disney's not getting the number they want, basically what they said was, okay, you still ain't paid us what we want. Take our stuff off, and we're going to choose to do it at 8:00 on Thursday night when the first college football game comes on.
It was just a black screen from what I heard, and then I think a message popped up explaining what the issue was.
So it was basically no alternative to watch the game.
No, unless you have.
Scrambling.
I mean, I had to get his YouTube TV login.
A lot of people did the free trials for Fubo or Sling or something like that. But it happened to me when I had DirecTV a few years ago with CBS. We watched shows on CBS that we could no longer watch. But football games were missed because they didn't have it on there, and you just have to find different ways to watch it.
Issues like this is what's causing people to cut cable out because Spectrum's. They're already very expensive.
Yeah.
And when people are paying this money, and they especially football, don't take the college football in the South is.
Right.
That's people's not livelihoods, but that's people look forward to that. And when you take it away from them and they have no alternative, they're what are the people going to do? If say for example they didn't have Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah, they hadn't thought about it. It hadn't happened yet, but no Monday Night Football because ESPN has Monday Night Football. So if they don't get it worked out, anybody with Spectrum just doesn't get Monday Night Football now.
Yeah,
they're going to lose a lot of customers.
They've already lost a lot of customers. I feel because it's. People got to watch. Especially SEC fans, because that's all the channels they're on.
Yeah.
Because the SEC's not on CBS anymore.
ACC's all
ESPN.
The Longhorn Network for Texas.
Is that even a thing anymore? Because they're going to be in the SEC next year.
Yeah, it's still a thing.
But it was weird seeing the Big Ten on CBS.
No Monday Night Football with Spectrum right now. They'll get it worked out.
But
how many customers are they going to lose in the meantime?
I wouldn't go back to them. Because it's just going to keep happening.
Right.
It's going to happen eventually to all of them, but it's just
Well, the thing is, with YouTube TV, YouTube's owned by Google, so they have a lot of money. They're already working these deals, and
I read something where Apple might be trying to acquire ESPN and Disney. Maybe just ESPN, not Disney.
Right. I think that Disney is maybe going to unload ESPN.
Yeah,
because it's not making them any money. Realistically,
the day of social media has just completely changed sports viewership. If Twitter or X isn't around, I still think ESPN is a very promising channel.
Yeah,
but people don't need to
put the money into it. Disney doesn't want to put the money that they need to.
People don't need to tune in to ESPN Sports Center every night at 10 p.m. to figure out what happened that day.
Yeah, those shows are dead.
You watch it. Even if you're not watching a game, you can follow it on Twitter. Because people post highlights all the time, or if you're a beat writer covering a specific team, you're going to find out what happened. You don't have to wait to the next day or later that night to figure out who won or what happened.
It's ESPN, they thrive off of the games for sure. Their shows aren't really doing a whole lot.
No.
So they definitely gonna have to get it worked out soon. But it doesn't matter to me because I've got YouTube.
Yeah. Luckily, I was able to find it this weekend.
Yeah. But before we get out of here, one more thing that I wanted to talk about was we mentioned it last week. Like, how was Coach Prime going to do? And they got off on the right foot.
Yeah, it was not a defensive game. It was an offensive game. TCU, they didn't. They did have a new offensive coordinator coming in.
New quarterback.
But you can say maybe not upgraded, but it was like they didn't downgrade.
Right.
Bringing in Kendall Briles.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but give credit to Colorado on offense.
Yeah, they came out, and I was interested to see, we knew that Shedeur Sanders was good, but and not to knock on the HBCU, but that's it's obviously a level down.
But you can say that about any good athlete at any it can
Division
be,
II.
It can be in high school. He's a top ranked player, but look who we played against.
Right.
And you can say that
you
about,
look at Grayson McCall at Coastal. I think he's an amazing quarterback, but if he had to come and play SEC level schools every week, I would question him as well coming in. But Sanders came out and he threw for almost 600 yards.
Yeah, set the school record.
And he wasn't even the star of the show.
Yeah.
Because Travis Hunter played 125 snaps.
So he played, I didn't get to watch the game.
He played both ways all game. He played wide receiver.
He's an athlete.
He had, well over 100 yards receiving, I believe.
Yeah.
Making plays all over the field. And then he comes in, he's playing defense, defensive back, makes a huge interception in the red zone.
Yeah.
He was all over the place.
Yeah.
There's no way he can sustain that for 12 games, though.
No,
you
I don't
cannot
think
play
so.
125 snaps a game
the entire
season.
You get beat on. And Colorado's running back had a really great game.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of got the question mark by Colorado. Their schedule doesn't get easier.
No.
But I think at least on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to be competitive.
They showed me a lot more than I didn't expect anything from them.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't have talent. It's just all right, you're making a major step up. And it's not just one or two players making a major step. He brought in 70 players, I think.
Yeah.
He
overhauled the entire roster, I believe.
So that was basically a brand new team, coming in. So it was already a question mark of what they were going to have. Yeah. But then they're also facing a team of, they've lost, coaches and starters, but they did play in the national championship last year with TCU. So.
Yeah. And I think another thing
and it was on the road in TCU at that.
And I guess Coach Prime's just not everybody's cup of tea. You've never really seen a head coach like him before.
Right.
That is polarizing as him. Because he's the head coach the exact same way he was an athlete.
Right.
He's very outspoken.
He's
going to speak his mind, and I don't think nobody's seen a head coach like that. Some coaches speak their minds, but not in a way
that he does.
Yeah.
It's almost like listening to a player.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly how he was.
Yeah.
But and then
which when you win,
if you can back it up, if you back it up,
and he always has. That's the thing. It's it's only game one for him at Colorado, but when he was at Jackson State, everything that he said, he backed it up. And then he got here, and he told them that they were going to do big things at Colorado. And game one, he goes into TCU, who was the runner-up in the national championship, and then beats them on their own field.
Yeah,
he keeps backing it up. That's all you can't. Like he said, I got receipts.
Yeah, speaking of backing it up, Marcus Satterfield. I know I said his name earlier, but I was reading message boards for Nebraska fans, and they're like, I kind of understand what South Carolina's talking about now.
Right, yeah. No, that was not surprising at all.
It's the same thing. Though, I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't care if we wouldn't have replaced him with anybody. Yeah. He was awful.
Yeah, and
you scored 10 points.
And they're seeing it for sure at Nebraska. But when they got him, they thought they were getting something.
I don't know why.
Well, I think a lot of it is, you get that recency bias where they looked at the last two games that he had against Tennessee.
Yeah, out of 24 games,
I don't even think that was a lot of it. Wasn't even him calling those plays. I don't think.
I think he still did it, but there was multiple hands in the cookie jar.
You would think though, if he saw for 10 games we were very inconsistent. Nobody liked what I was doing, and then for 2 games I switched up what I was doing, and we had this great success. And then you go to a different program, and then you just revert back to what you did when you weren't good.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
And they were even saying in the preseason that the playbook is just not in depth, but it's just too much. You don't need that. You want to prepare them for the next level, but it's at the same time, you have to give them the recipe for success at the collegiate level.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, even at the next level, like, they don't do it the way he does, where only certain people are in certain packages. Like in the NFL, everybody knows the playbook.
Yeah,
whether you never run that play or not, you know it, so that if you are thrown in to do it, you know what you're doing.
And it's also in the NFL, it's your job to know that. Like in college, you can argue with the way college football is going. It's a job.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're still student athletes. Like they're in class. They're still, they don't wake up at 6 a.m., go lift, study playbook or whatever, then practice, and then you stay there. Like they're still having to do their school stuff. And it's the same thing he did with Carolina.
Yep.
Same thing. And I do not miss it.
That's good for them. Good for Nebraska. I'm glad they got him. I'm glad it isn't us.
Yeah, we got a good game tonight between LSU and Florida State.
Yep.
Because like I said, we are filming this on Sunday.
Yeah. LSU's going to win that one for sure. I think FSU's overhyped.
I think LSU's overhyped.
Well, they both are with their rankings, but I think LSU probably has, more talent.
Where are they playing at? Is it a neutral site game? Hold on.
And then you got Clemson.
Rutgers is beating Northwestern 24-0 right now.
You have Clemson, LSU at Florida State. So that'll be tough.
But it was a neutral site game, right?
And then, of course, you got Clemson that's playing Duke, one of our teams that we cover.
Go Duke.
They're playing Monday.
They're playing in Orlando, Florida tonight. Yeah. It's a neutral site game, which those usually are. I think
kind of like South Carolina, North Carolina, neutral site.
Yeah, I think Clemson wins tonight or tomorrow night pretty easily.
Yeah,
Duke did have a good season last year, but they also didn't play Clemson or Florida State. Like their schedule was pretty weak last year.
Yep. So and then next week we'll be able to recap both of the games, South Carolina and Furman, and then. We'll recap
both Clemson games.
Yep. Yeah. Both Clemson games. I'm not sure who they play week 2.
Who, Clemson?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a smaller school, so there probably won't be much, in terms of.
Seems to be the story of Clemson football. Just joking, everybody. Please don't hate me.
They play a week schedule.
Clemson plays Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston.
Charleston
Southern. So
they're playing Wren High School next weekend. Just joking.
So. All right, well, we'll be back next week. Again, we'll recap South Carolina Furman and then 2 Clemson games. Probably we'll end up digging a little bit deeper into this Clemson-Duke game. I think there'll be a little bit more meat on that bone.
There'll be more to talk about.
Yeah, so join us next week, and then anything crazy that comes up nationally, we'll cover that as well.
We'll know more about Cade Klubnik this time next weekend, I feel.
Yeah, and if you got Spectrum, you better go to YouTube TV.
Or somebody else. See y'all.
See you then.